everybody time to. Gigi La Patate is already there, Steve.
Yeah, Gigi
He's
La
like on
Patate,
a
first one
schedule.
in.
We have Jason Tullio with us. We have so many questions for him. Can't wait until we get this thing started. Steve, how did you manage to take a couple of hours off from the daily duties? You told your wife, I'm going to be out cold from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. We have this, we have the podcast.
Vinje,
Yeah.
there's one secret. There's a secret to the sauce. You do the dishes, you could do the podcast. The dishes get done, and we're podcast all night long.
All right, all right.
And
Hello,
guys,
hello.
look. I'm wearing the
He's
colors. I'm
wearing.
representing today.
I see.
You know what? I'm sure if Jason knew about our situation a couple of years ago with us trying to meet Pirlo, he would have helped us out. I'm sure. We have a bad story, Jason. We will get into it, but we tried everything. Just the Impact of Montreal did not want us to meet Pirlo. They don't want to accommodate us back in the day, even though New York City FC had done everything for us to meet them. But we don't hold it against you because you're a good guy.
Steve, you could have called me. You know that.
I know, but it's just we have to abide by the rules of the Impact.
We have to. By the way, we don't want to pull. It was our first year, no, Steve. It was our first year coming back, Milan, Montreal. All right, so we got a couple of people already. 7. Steve, you want to get it started?
Let's go.
Let's go. Steve, I wanted to get some energy in here tonight, Monday night. A bit of Billy Idol. Cari amici sportivi, welcome yet to a special edition of the Milan Weekly Podcast. Here where we talk, well, not everything Milan on this one here. What we reach out to the special guests, Steve. And today we have... Steve, I'm going to let you introduce this fine gentleman. I know him not as well as you, but please just give him the graceful entrance.
Guys, it's our pleasure. And first of all, we're going to thank Mr. Jason Tullio, La Grinta of Montreal Impact, the U17 Academy head coach, correct?
Yes.
And ex-player, ex-Canadian national player. Guys, it's a real pleasure for me. I'm really excited about this, as you saw our over-exaggeration on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Homegrown talent, guys. Homegrown talent, which is nice for me because we both played at the same club. Jay, it's okay? CSRDP?
It's okay.
Steve, but you were the better player in that team. I know, Jay, I don't want you to, but Steve...
He was the faster player.
He was he came off... I know you were super sub, Steve. I know.
I was all about speed, guys. I was built for speed from when I was a kid. Thanks, Vinny. Besides that, guys, it's a pleasure to welcome Jason Tullio from the Impact. Again, homegrown talent. This is what we want to do on Milan Weekly Podcast and talk about soccer and in Montreal, and to have the privilege to have Jason, who he's lived soccer his whole life, which is a hard job in itself, but he's made a fantastic career of it, and for sure many more years of him being Il Mister.
I appreciate it, Steve. Vinny, Steve, thank you for having me. I'm a busy guy, but when I get a chance to listen to you guys, great podcast, and I'm excited to be here. So thanks.
It's a pleasure for us having you here. And, Steve gave you the little bit of intro, but Jason, for anybody that's watching us or listening to us right now, can you give us maybe a quick, your career path from the days that you played with Steve, please? Start from there, because that was definitely where you became, a good player. But give us maybe in a short term how your career went in the soccer world.
Yeah, look. For people that know me, I'm a very loyal guy. So I played with one club all my life, which is CSRDP, where I got the privilege to see Steve play. I actually played with some of my cousins in RDP. And then playing with the provincial team, national team, had the privilege of playing in an under-20 World Cup with the likes of Dani Alves, Iniesta back in 2003. And then in 2002, I signed with the Impact at 17 years old. Had a short career due to... couple of knee injuries. As soon as I had career-ending knee surgery, I got right into coaching. Coached at the academy, then coached the assistant coach with the first team for a couple of years. Took some time off, and now back with the under-17s at the Montreal Impact and helping out a little bit with our national program. Always around the game.
Fantastic, and it's so great, Steve, that we have somebody from our parts of the wood that had this sort of success in Canadian soccer. Seeing him, crazy how to see him, Drogba on the field, and we have our friend Jason there on the sidelines being
Yeah.
his coaches. It's surreal, Steve?
No, very surreal and chapeau, right? Because I'm pretty sure Jason could tell you when he was playing, they were different times, right? There was no social media, there was no basically someone had to see you at the right place and the right time and say, you know what, turn to the left, and some scout on the left or on the right and say, wow, this kid has something that the others don't, right? So uh, chapeau. I cannot say anything more than that, to be very honest with you. And also, you touched on something, Vinny, very important. Being from Montreal and having the chance to play for your home team.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, Jason. How did that feel when you first put on le bleu, le noir, et le blanc?
Yeah, look, I think like every young player, when you're and it's interesting you say that there wasn't social media. We needed to be good every single day because you had no idea who was coming to watch. And I think that was one thing that was told to me when I was younger. And I went to Italy. I did the whole try to make it in Europe, but there was just something in my gut that said I needed to play for my hometown. I wanted to play in front of family and friends. So I did come back. I got homesick. I wasn't ready for that life just yet. And playing for the Montreal Impact was, but more for playing in front of the family and having, your mom, your dad, your sister, all your friends just to come to see you and cheer. And then winning a championship in 2004 and having them there was a dream come true.
Yeah.
Must have been an awesome feeling because, with Steve, we go from the history of Montreal. You had the Supra back in the day. Then La Manique, this and that, and let's not kid ourselves, Jason. I think that was a hard decision for you to say, I want to play back in Montreal. You were sacrificing, possibly money or this and that, but at that state of your life. So for that, really, hats off to you to say, you know what, you've developed yourself into a career coming back into Montreal. That's fantastic, is it not, Steve?
Yeah, it's fantastic too, guys. Is you have to understand the trek that Jason went through, right? Playing on the Quebec Select, playing on the Canadian national team. Guys, it's hard. It's hard to, especially in those days. It was hard to get noticed. It was hard to have someone say, you know what, you're gonna be one of the best 11 players in your age category, or play higher up than your age category. It was just hard to compare. Our country's so big, our population is not big, but our country's so big, and we have out west the BCs, the Albertas. BC can play almost football and soccer to 365 days a year, right? They don't have the snow, they have the rain. Here in Montreal, guys, you have to understand, Montreal, Toronto, the snow comes in. These guys lose almost 8 months, a good 6 to 8 months out of the year. They're playing in a dome where, guys, Jason, we played at an Emasson behind on Peras there, which was not artificial turf, guys. This was hardcore concrete. We were playing on concrete with a paint, a little pubic hair of artificial turf grazed right on top of concrete. And trust me, you want to slide tackle, guys, on that type of astral turf, it's going to leave a mark. It'll leave a mark. You're gonna look like no fresh prosciutto, beautiful, nice, ready to slice. So to have that type of a career is incredible, especially for the hard work, the dedication, being someone young. You touched on it too, Jason. Going to Europe and these other countries, there's a lot of people that they don't have the luxuries that we have, right? You come from a good family, you've never missed anything in your life. You're competing with guys who they lived on the street, they have a different mindset, right? Can you tell us about, and you talk about la grinta all the time, talk about that mindset. What mindset did you have to get to, not to Europe, but to get to where you are now?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I was fortunate enough as a young player, as a young person from the East End, to have a family that was very supportive. but at the same time, everything we ever got, we had to earn it. And I think that's one of the things I learned from my family is earning the respect from the people around you, and taking what you want. And you talk about, you mentioned back in the days we used to train in domes. Well, back in the days we used to train in little, I remember
Gymnasiums.
with the Ali's and the Sandros and the Nick DeSantis's, and that's where I built a lot of character. It was a small gymnasium. You couldn't hide every single day. If you didn't have La Grinta, you didn't survive. And I remember driving home with my dad and saying, I don't know if I can do this tomorrow, or and then you wake up the next morning and say, well, let me go prove to these older guys that, I can be the future of this, the future of soccer here in Montreal. And, a lot of our good friends, we have, like Rocco, one of my best friends growing up. And I remember us having that passion, but we had different paths, but it was always about earning the respect, learning the tactical detail and playing with so much grit that it couldn't come out of any coach's mouth, any of your players with experience that, today you took a day off. And I'm really proud of, if there's one thing that I'm really proud of today is, everybody always associates me with La Grinta because of the work ethic, because of the fight. Didn't matter who you were. The minute we entered on the field, it was always about that grit and trying to earn the respect of everyone around you.
And speaking of Grinta, which is maybe a quality that we don't see as often nowadays that we've seen back in the day. And Milan Club Boston, wanted to ask you, what was it like to meet Gattuso, and how much Grinta did you guys talk about? Can you answer? Can you refer to that?
That's a good question. I'm going to tell you a true story. I didn't have a conversation with Gennaro. It was the only person in my whole life, and I met a lot of legends, and I have actually good friends of mine that are legends and world champions, and we speak on a regular basis. The day I met Gattuso, I remember I knew I was going to meet him. I knew he was going to be on the field. It was the first team asked me to come and help out. I knew Gennaro was in town, and I met him, and I couldn't say anything. He was the only guy that ever intimidated me. When we talk about La Grinta and the presence, just asking him, you mind taking a picture? And I was telling Steve yesterday on that picture, I'm like, Steve, that picture, you don't understand. It was just so real, and I didn't need to say anything. I felt it, and it kind of brought me back in the days of that passion and that fight. But I didn't really say anything. I just, hi, how are you? Just thanks for inspiring me by what you do every day. So
it's crazy that he says that, Steve, because when I met him that day, probably at the same time as you with my cousin Johnny and Tony Marinero, the guy's smaller than me, and what a presence, right? So I totally. And we started speaking Calabrese and talking about like O País. I couldn't talk to him about Milan, and I'm like, this guy's shorter than me, and what a presence, Steve. I don't think we can say anything about Jason not being able to talk to him, because what a presence, Gennaro Gattuso, no?
Yeah, and it's something like, we're all three passionate about soccer in totally different ways, but you meet someone like that, and guys, he's a Champions League winner. He's a World Cup winner. He's a Scudetto winner. He's a Cup of Cup winner. At a certain point, you there is a bit of stardom and starstruck, and I want to touch a little bit on that there, because we focus on the impact there. But Jason, you represented our country, so you played with Canada. Can you talk to us and how you felt when you put on le blanc et le rouge, the red and the white?
And not for anything, Steve, that's a great question, because if I'm not mistaken, he would have probably had the possibility to play as an Italian player, but deciding to play as a Canadian player. Yeah, talk to us about that. Very interesting.
Yeah, look, I was fortunate and blessed that I was chosen to be captain of the national team. So I was captain of my age group. Unfortunately, we did not qualify our first year that I captained the team, and I remember that burned so much. I had such a good young career that I got called up with the older team, and then we qualified for the World Cup, and then went to a World Cup where we played some big players that are still playing today. For me, it was the like the icing on the cake. It was really I always wanted to represent my country. Italy is Italy, but Canada and what we live every single day is real. And just to put on that jersey, it was sleepless nights just waiting. And a lot of people don't know that we were qualifying for the World Cup. We qualified for the World Cup, and then there was the war in 2001. So they had to postpone it for another year, and that's when I went to the Impact to work out, and they actually signed me. So a lot of things happen. It's a crazy world out there, and as we see today, but there's a reason for everything. And I was fortunate enough to stay healthy, train with the Impact, sign with the Impact, and then go to the World Cup in UAE. So always a privilege. Something we're best friends. Just that period in the UAE back in the days was we have friendships today because of it. So I'm very, very, very proud of that.
Speaking of, you were talking about, look at that picture there. Brother Milan on YouTube, you're talking about your trajectory through Italy. Were you at any point close to playing in Serie B or Serie C? From Brother Milan on YouTube.
Yeah, great question. So how it all works is in the beginning, they say, do you want to play for, I'll say Milan first because it's a Milan podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very nice.
It was about going to Milan and the bigger clubs, but there's a process, and I was really humble in my capacity. I went pretty much there to see, how good was I, and so I did 3 months in France, and then I went to Ternana, which was a Serie B team back in the days, and I spent about 2 months there. And that's when I think we had one game versus, I think it was Brescia, if I'm not mistaken. Did well, but it was just a different mindset. It's you play for you, but I don't think I've ever played for me. I think I've played for the people around me, the people that have suffered. We talk a lot about the sacrifices to become a professional soccer player, professional player. I dropped out of school in college, knowing that for me, university was the coaching degree. And I'm still studying right now. I'm still taking my courses, but it was always about, yes, I want to play in Europe, but I wanted to dominate in North America. But it was mostly to play for the people around me who suffered during my time here in Montreal.
That's awesome. Steve, can I go through another through question unless you got something in mind?
No, I'm asking.
It's my Gigi, go ahead. Sorry, Steve. No, that's what I'm asking. Do you have a question until I go back to Twitter questions?
I have a question.
Blue, by the way.
I know it's hot.
Black. You look good in blue.
We have a problem because it's kind of inter colors. The first year, Jason, I wasn't too fond of that jersey with the inter colors, but it's okay. We're not going to talk about that.
That was my question for you guys. I had one question for you guys. That's what I wanted to know. I wanted to know how you guys felt about the.
I never bought a single piece of merchandise because of those colors. No offense, Jay. No, I supported the first year, but no, I couldn't do it.
Vinny, you can get away with that. I'm fortunate enough that there's no size that fits me in the jersey, so I have an excuse. But I could fit into this beautiful jacket that I have.
That one's nice.
Which is mainly blue, so I don't feel that bad.
You know what?
The black sometimes it hurts.
Steve, the white one was gorgeous when they came out, but it was that strisci of nerazzurro. I'm like, no, I just couldn't. But those games, if you lost, no offense, Jason, I wasn't too mad. The white jersey is perfectly fine. I like it. But no, I wasn't a big fan of the colors. But Steve, your question to Jason.
No, so question. We're going to go to your passion, right? So again, cheating here because I know you. Your passion is coaching, right? So it's a 3-part question because I know that you've coached also women. You're at the academy and you've also touched the pros. So can you tell us first, my first question is dealing with the pros. What advice do you have to someone who wants to coach? How it is to deal with the different types of characters that you're going to get in that room? And is there a true difference between the women's game and the men's game, or is it blown out of proportion?
So to your first question, you're saying what kind of consigli you would have to people that wanted to coach dealing with superstars? You're saying
exactly because he's someone who's local who rose through the ranks. He paid his dues and got to where he is, and then you end up in a room, and whether you like it or not, there's the Didier Drogba, there's the Alessandro Nesta, there's the Marco Di Vaio, there's the Nacho Piatti. There's the guys on and on. Everybody has their own character, right? So how do you deal with the different characters?
And I was going to ask you the same question, Jace. Is like, how does your how do you mentally prepare for that going into a room where the players that just Steve just mentioned you, right? And how do you make sure that, hey, I'm a person of authority here? How did you deal with all of that?
Well, the first thing, it started with mentorship. Having Mauro and Nick help me throughout my career and about building that personality and character. And one of the things they taught me was about, having your own conviction, but about being prepared. My advice to anybody that wants to be a coach is understanding two things: the business part of it. You can be on the top of the world and then at the bottom of the world because it's all about wins and losses. There's no security in your job, so that's tough. It's tough on you. It's tough on the family. It can cause hurt with the people around you. So that's the first thing: is you've got to really, really, really want it and say, if it's 2 years, everybody always asks me, was it worth it for 2.5 years? Hell yeah, I do that again and go through the whole process again, just because of winning at home, scoring at home, hearing that bell, getting into the conference finals, 12 minutes away. Those Toronto battles.
Make fun of them, Toronto, Jason. It's okay. Make fun of them.
I can make fun of them, but there's a lot of respect.
Yeah.
But he's got to be politically correct.
No, there's a lot of hate. There's a lot of hate. I'm not gonna lie. People know the red, but I don't want to talk too bad about the red and black. But I think that part of the business part is you got to be ready. You got to have social media. You spoke about social media. Everybody's gonna have an opinion. From our parents going to the supermarket and saying, tactically they got it wrong, or it's all about wins and losses. As for the locker room, it was about preparation. You better know what you're talking about. I remember my first week, I'm not going to mention the players' names, but I got killed by 2 players just because I was trying to be politically correct with them and trying, they're saying, what can I improve in my game, or how do I get more minutes? In the first week, how do I get in the starting lineup? You've watched our team. Even though I was at the academy, I was always studying our first team. And I'm like, well, if you keep working hard, and I got killed. They ripped me a new one. And from that day on, I realized you got to be prepared for everything, because the difference between youth and pro is the pro will question you. The pro will question, why are you forcing the opposition out wide? Why are we playing in a 3-5-2? And once you have the answers with clarity and with some video, and you can have an answer to every single one of their questions, well, then you gain respect and you earn that trust amongst themselves. So for me, it was about preparation. It was about making sure that everything that came out of my mouth, well, the week before, the day before, the night before, 10 seconds before training, I knew, you learn about the characters of certain players. Piatti didn't ask much, but there were certain players. And when you talk about Didier Drogba, well, a lot of the questions, well, this is what we did in Chelsea. Why don't we try it here? And you're like, well, these are the reasons why. Yeah, but this is what happened because Mourinho said this. And you're like, okay. And then you're like, you got to be quick. You got to be ready for everything. And it taught me how to be prepared a lot. Really.
I can just imagine, Steve, being able to be in that position. We're in managerial positions, you and I, and a kind of a correlation when you have somebody that's more experienced than you and putting you to the test. And, hats off to you again, Jason, to be humble enough to say, hey, I had to learn. There were mistakes that were made. And you're saying that you will never give up those 2.5 years because you've learned from that experience. And that's what it's all about, is not, Steve, learning from our experiences.
Yeah, of course. You gotta, for everybody, you gotta remember these players are players because they're cerebral as well. They know what they're doing. They're on that pitch because, yes, they're athletically gifted, but mentally they're of a select group of individuals on this earth, right? It takes a lot, right, in terms of mentality and physical ability to become a pro player. So these guys are going to come at you with the questions and the tough questions that you better have an answer for, and you better have an answer and back it up, right? Like it's pretty hard for Jason to say, oh, maybe Mourinho was wrong. No, that's not gonna fly with a type of player like that. But like you said, if your message is clear and concise and consistent, I'm pretty sure those players learn to appreciate you as a coach and as an individual. And then as time goes, there's a bondage that happens, right? Uh, if we can go to now, I'm going backwards on purpose. Now academy level, right? So academy level is something new to this country, fairly new. And thanks to the Impact for bringing it in, because I do think that it is the right trajectory for young up and coming talents to be isolated with each other in a controlled environment, being taught to go to that next level, from level X to level Z. Talk to us about training these kids, where you know what, you're not going to tell like you just mentioned, some players are going to come and ask you, how do I get on the pitch? These players here are gonna ask you that same question, but now you're gonna be in a position where you're gonna have to tell them, Jay, maybe you're not that good, or maybe you're not good enough.
It's got to be a hard conversation, right? And that's all coming with managerial skills and coaching. How do you handle all of that, Jason?
Well, for me, my key is to be 100% honest with the player. They know that I've been there. They know I try to pass that message to them in terms of saying I know what it takes. And for me, I wasn't the most talented, but I wanted it the most. And there's a lot of players that, if they have the talent, well, then you just got to go build that grit and that character inside them. But it's all about honesty. We have one of the hardest part of my jobs is sitting in front of a kid, in front of his family, and saying, unfortunately, you will not continue with the academy. But at the same time, you have a lot of those good conversations where, you tell them, well, here's your path. We're almost there. This is what we're going to do for the next couple of years. With the young ones, it's really about, finding what their major quality is and keep on flourishing it. And then trying to find out what's the minimum that they're going to have at the next level. So if there's a dribbler or somebody that has the qualities of a Nacho Piatti, well, he's never going to be the best defender out there. You're not going to get the best defender and the best offensive player. It doesn't exist. So it's how do you take that offensive quality and keep on working with it? Because eventually, if you're going to sign a pro contract, they're signing because of that that major quality. And then the second thing is working on, this is what you need to work on, because if defensively, it's really, you're here, but we got to get it to there. And then combined with that, it's all about the person. We work a lot on building the human and the respect and being able to adapt to certain situations and building that personality where, we always talk about the young players that go with the first team. Always the young guy, the older guys are nice with them and they go to training camp until they're really there to try to sign a pro contract. And then everything changes. And a lot of the young players go down because mentally, man, you got to be strong. You got to have thick skin. And you got to understand that if you sign a pro contract, there's a good chance that you're taking food away from an older guy that has maybe a family and the wife is in the year. And so you gotta teach them that. And at 17 years old, in the environment I'm at, it's about being a good person, a good teammate, but really building that grit of understanding the tactical excellence, but at the same time wanting it more than your buddy next to you.
Yeah. So that's sorry, Vince. Just to add a point. So I brought that question up because everybody that I talk to, and I try to pass that message on to, and it's not because I'm a professional player, nowhere close to it, but or even how can I say? It's just there's the loss of logic sometimes, right? So these players have to understand that yes, they're playing for a sport, but in the end, Vinny, like you said before, and like Jason, you said, this is a business. This is like someone who comes into a company brand new and is trying to make his way up to whatever level, VP level, C level. There is some toes that you're gonna step on, right? And like you said, Jason, you are going to take some veterans' place because that's the evolution of the game, right? Some veterans will embrace that and, like you said, mentor it. Some veterans will take exception to that and they will not let you take that next step. And like you said, Jason, psychologically at the academy level, this for me is the most interesting part. Like I would come for free and sit down in your classes just to see the psychological part, because that's what interests me the most. Because I come from a generation where, my parents, like your parents, Jason, my parents were a little bit older. They came from Italy. My father did not care about soccer. And it's not that he didn't care. He understood very quickly that this might not be the avenue for me. So to concentrate on school and concentrate on, but now this generation here, I'm afraid that, and being sometimes at that level, coaching and trying to make the parents understand that there's an evolution to your kid. There's an evolution where he has to go through some tough times, and he has to hear the truth to become a better person and a better player. What recommendations would you give to someone who is coaching a very talented player, but seems to be a player that
It's
the
coaching
parent that
Balotelli. Let's
yeah,
just put
not
it this way.
not
No, not
Balotelli.
even.
No, someone like, example, the parents are trying to live their dream through this
Through the
child.
kid. How do you break? How do you break that? Like that, what you're saying, Steve, is like, as a manager at your job and mine, when somebody's expecting to be something that they're not, and I've had those conversations, and holy fuck, it's not easy when you got to break down somebody's dreams. You want to tell somebody dream on, but as a manager and as you're coaching and all your experience, like Steve was saying, how hard is it to deal with that? The parents think he's a lot better than what he is.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a great question. I learned it by playing in the World Cup, man marking Iniesta. That's what I learned, where my humility came uh, back to a place where I said, well, that's what I want to be. That's how fast I want to think. That's how technically sound I want to be. For me, right now in our environment, it's about communication. And you speak a lot about, Steve, about the mental part. We have a mental preparator full time to help us be better coaches. But for me, it's about communication. It's being honest. I repeat myself, but there's being honest, but there has to be a support system. So, I'm very tough for the players that have played for me. They know that
It's all good.
I'm a really tough, because I know that once they're going to be with the pros, you're going to have a pro on your case every single day. There, you might not have the support system. Your support system is your agent. Your support system is your family that might not understand. Your support system is your friend. We try to help them in a way where you're honest. It's really, really tough. We really, really focus on the detail and the tactical detail and working every single day. But there's a support system at the academy where, when it's giving them the solutions or the guidelines on how to try to find the solutions. And we call that the support system. So you're really, really tough. You're playing bad cop, good cop, bad cop. But at the same time, you try to be as, you don't want anything fluff. You're not just talking to talk. It's about really, really, really being there. And we have an open door policy. And, a lot of coaches today don't have that open door policy. You can say, I have an open door policy. And then a player comes in and says, Coach, I think you're full of shit. I think you're full of shit because I worked my balls off and he didn't, and he's still playing today. How do you deal with those type of conversations? And that's where you got to be prepared. But at the same time, if you're opening up those communication lanes, well, you're able to find a solution together. And through my experience and speaking, again, with those players like the Donadals and like the Piattis and the Drogbas who were very, very open, it's about that. It's you're breaking them, and then you're remolding them with the support system so that they're ready for the real world, if that's what they really want.
Donadel, Forza Milan.
Donadel. Steve, before we get into the Twitter questions, do you have anything? Because you got like maybe 4 or 5 to go through this. Anything comes to mind?
One last question, and I gave Jason a little sneak
Jason
preview
is
of this.
the time where I go get a beer. Go ahead.
Yeah, go. It's okay. He goes when he wants, Jason. Don't worry about it. It's me who talks. The real questions come from me. All jokes aside, We know that, and everybody online who follows Milan Weekly Podcast and Milan know that Milan, throughout these past couple of years, has not been very good in terms of keeping stuff inside the locker room, saying what the right. Saying the right things at the right time. So today, from yesterday's news, we have this whole drama. We had the drama with Boban speaking out against Milan and the administration, and he found himself out the door. Maldini, who is a bandiera of Milan, seems to have done the same thing just the other day. My question to you: both these interviews were held, to my knowledge, and I'm saying this to my
We're
knowledge.
assuming.
We're assuming without help from the PR guy. So, can you take us through, as a coach, that the difference between taking questions from reporters in that controlled environment after a game, before a game, on a TV set, and taking questions from reporter or slash up and coming, we're going to add blogger to there, we're going to add anything we can in terms of some media outlet that will get news out, where you don't have that guidance from the PR guy.
Like,
You're going to need to answer that tough question.
Like what like he's basically saying, like, are there sometimes you're left out all on your own asking these questions? You know, do you have to answer? Do you know how to answer? Steve, fantastic question.
Yeah, look, we're in the pro environment. You're prepared. You're prepared on, and again, it comes back. I repeat the word preparation, but you're prepared on the message you want to pass. The best coaches in the world that are good in front of the mic, even the ones that are a little bit louder, like the Mourinhos, there's a thought process behind everything. It's what type of message do you want to pass? Where do you want to take the shine away from a certain situation? But you are prepared on the message you want to pass. Fortunately, I would say there's some good reporters out there that are able to ask the good questions. And for me, it's about being real, but understanding that anything you say is said for life. And somebody right now can, we hear of players like tweeting in 2012 and now 2020, it affects their. I'm not talking about the bad stuff. I'm talking about for a certain club or never coaching this club, and you don't know. So for me, it was always about really what is the message that we want to pass this week? What are we comfortable saying, and what are we comfortable knowing that once we say it, we live with it, and you can't go backwards in this in this time of day. So it was a lot about preparation and communication. Then the other part is, if you ever are stuck, well, it's about being honest and true to who you are, and then living with the consequences. But as long as you're true on what you believe in, and we had, from the Drogba situation, where we had to come out publicly and say what we felt. But there's so much that goes on, and that's why building a team, team character and team bonding is so important on and off the field, because you want to try to limit that. But in today's world, it's impossible to be prepared for everything. So you just got to be real. That's my advice.
That's perfectly said, Steve. You couldn't go wrong with that kind of situation. And I'm going to go through a couple of YouTube questions here before we get into our Twitter questions. But Brother Milan says, Jason, from the old Impact guard with the Leducs, Bielos, De Sanctis, Gervais, who was the best player that you would say could have played in Europe or at least the MLS?
Oof.
Jason Tullio.
Jason Tullio, for sure.
For sure.
I'm saying that with a lot of humility, but that's...
We're going to give him a plug. Rocco Placentino, he could have played in the MLS, right? Even though he's not mentioned, we're going to... Or you want to give him a job and say, no, he wouldn't have been able to start.
No right foot and he doesn't defend, so I'm not good.
Shots fired.
But he played in Europe, and I didn't. So hats out to him. But I still said I would always bring him on his right foot and take away his speed, and he was easy to defend. But that's another story. That's a great question. I think from the again, I played from 2002 to 2007. Well, caught me off guard a little bit. I would have to say, obviously, Sandro already did play, so in his prime. But I would say my boy that I work with now, Eddie Sabrango. I would say Eddie Sabrango.
Sabrango was a good player. I remember Sabrango as like he still works. He still works for the Impact. Yeah.
Yeah. So he coaches our under 14s. He coaches
Nice.
our 14s at the academy. And the reason I say Eddie Sabrango is because I saw his work ethic. I saw his mentality. Eddie Sabrango could still play today. And he's over 40 years old and he can outrun us. He sends us messages every day of how many kilometers he ran. Steve, I'm not sure if he can outrun you. But he can outrun,
You can't. No. Nobody can outrun Steve J. I know.
Guys, hold on. What's at the end? What's my finish line? If you're telling me it's no panini with a little bit of prosciutto, a little bit of melanzane, and no provolone, guys, I'm gonna beat him.
No, but Eddie's a striker that presses, that defends, that scores goals, that gets into the box, that doesn't say a word, eats well, trains well. For me, if I had to choose somebody from that regime, and again, there's the Nevios, like there's Mauro Biello that was so petite but so intelligent and can finish. But if I had to choose one guy, just because of the profile of what they look at, what a coach looks for today, I would say Eddie Sabrango. Yeah.
We have a question from Instagram from Facebook Frank.
I'm getting live text before Facebook Frank. I'm getting live text.
Live text from who?
So brother Milan's question. Someone sent me a text message. He wants me to say his name, Francis Colagiacomo.
Okay, Francis.
He thinks he could have made the MLS too.
Ooh, Francis
could have made the MLS. Jason, that snake of our friend.
You know what? I learned a lot from Francis back in the CNHP days. Quality player. Francis was too nice.
Oh yeah.
Francis,
he's too nice, Francis. He's not a real snake.
This is forever. This is forever. It's beautiful. I'm gonna replay it at his 50th wedding anniversary.
If I was coaching Francis in my time now of what I know, then yes, he could have played because he intelligent, smart in reading the game, technically. He needed a little bit more bite. I wanted more bite from Francis. So that's what you get, Francis, for listening.
Good. He was asking on Instagram with all the Canadian players and more Canadians in MLS, could Canada qualify for Qatar 2022? What's your thoughts of Canada qualifying for these for the World Cup?
Well, mathematically, it's going to be tough. When they changed the whole system, I think Canada was on the right track until they changed the whole system of how to qualify. So it kind of put them, behind the 8 ball. But right now, with everything that's happening, we don't know what the actual procedure of qualifying. But it's not because I also help out the Canadian national team. We're on the right track. We've seen younger players like Alphonso Davies, Jonathan David, Liam Miller. There's quality out there, and it's it's crazy.
Begovic, Portiere del Milan right now. Begovic came up through the Canadian system. We got to give our boy a plug because he's like somewhat the refugee Canadian. So sorry, I had to interrupt you there.
But a lot of them, it comes from the environment that they train every single day. And I remember Alfonso just running down the line when we were playing Vancouver, and you're looking at that, and I'm like, I don't remember that. Like, I remember Rocco being that fast. But Rocco was petite and stocky and quick, but to be big and strong and technical, you just didn't see that, as much back in the day. So I think 2022 is going to be tough, but not impossible, and we'll see what happens now. But 2026, if the MLS and the academies and everybody continues working together for the better of the game in this country, look what the MLS did for U.S. soccer. Yes, it's up and down, but it's what are we going to do for our Canadian players and start thinking a little bit more about ourselves. I think we're on the right track.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, there just to spawn another question. It might be a tough one, and
we're definitely going over, Steve. By the way,
yeah, it's okay. Jason, you have to go, or you're still good?
Yeah, because I have so many things to do right now.
This question spawned, okay? You said, what can Canada and a program do for our Canadian players? I think it's around your age mark where we had the Owen Hargreaves situation, where Owen Hargreaves is Canadian, played at Manchester United, Bayern Munich, so on and so forth. But his decision was to play for England. Is that just because he was good enough to play for England and he said, I'm going to play for England? Or it was because of not having the confidence in the Canadian game? So you speak about Alfonso Davies and Davis and guys who are committed to the Canadian program. Is there something that Canada needs to do to make sure that Owen Hargreaves doesn't happen again?
Or Steve, even better, Owen Hargreaves, would he have went if it was in this day and age with the program that we have in place? Go ahead,
Vinny,
Look, I think it's crazy to think that we can even compete to the European market right now. And if I had to decide between playing for Italy and here's your cap, your first cap, and here's the pathway of how you're going to become an international player going forward, you got to think about the market. You got to think about the rest of your life. And I think the Owen Hargreaves situation, it's more about Canada has nothing to fall back on. We can talk about the program. We can talk about, well, Jason's a great coach and the impact is working well in Vancouver and Toronto. But the only thing, and we talk about this all the time, it's all about getting into a World Cup. The day that you come into a World Cup, the day you make the Olympics and you're on the international stage, then everything starts clicking, and it's about marketing. It's about the business part of it. It's about, your options are just way, 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 way more than playing for Canada. And that's true. But it doesn't mean that you can be the next generation to change all that.
Exactly.
A lot of our young players right now, I feel they want to change that. They want the Canadian jersey, leave it in a better place for the next guy. But right now it's about, can I take that Canadian jersey and do something that was never done before?
Yeah, it's that hunger and that pedigree that in my personal opinion, and people can shit on me for it, it's Canada's a nice country. We're always known as the nice country. Canada needs La Grinta. And I'm not saying this because you're on the show and I'm interviewing right now. We need, you spoke about Francis and having that edge.
We need the pride, Steve. We need the Giuseppe Rossi's of the world not going back to the USA. We need the Alfonso Davies to consider Canada. That's what you're talking about. We need that grinta and that respect back to our country where it wasn't there 20 years ago. It might be there today. I'm sorry, I just have to say that. Go ahead.
Pride, guys, for me, in my opinion, the pride was always there.
Yeah, the pride is there. It's the pedigree that's not there, right?
And the structure. Like you can't just really work hard and succeed. You got to be good at it. You got to be good. So that's why a lot of players are going to say, Coach, I worked really hard. Yeah, but you didn't execute. And that guy next to you was just better, working less. So you got to work harder and be better than him, because some players can work a little bit less and have certain quality. Canada's, in my opinion, biggest issue, and we had a little bit of it in 2003. It's the plan, the structure, and forget about everyone else and have like a little bit, have the cojones.
Yeah.
Really say this is the path, and that's what John Herdman really is trying to do right now. You can agree, disagree on his methodologies or way of thinking, but he's got a way of thinking, and he's going full pin. And now let's just give it time and see what happens. Because for me, you can't compete if you don't have the grit. Because you're never going to beat Mexico, you're never going to beat Panama, because that's installed in them. They don't have Plan B. We always had Plan B. If I don't make it soccer, I'm going back to school.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm not making soccer,
you're right.
I have a lot of good friends that come from there, and some of the stories are even crazier. Like soccer, soccer saved my life. I always say that because I went through a tough time with the family at a certain point, and the injuries, and I'm back into the game right now. But we're talking about like life or death or life or jail, and that's how the grit is there. Now, you got to have that structure around and say, what is the plan to just beat? You don't have to beat US and Mexico now. You got to beat El Salvador, Panama, Jamaica, just one of those countries on a regular basis to get into the World Cup. And then eventually have the humility and say, okay, we're good there. Now what's next? How do we beat US and Mexico?
Hopefully one day, Steve? Hopefully one day. Can
You
I go
know,
with the rapid fire? Go ahead, Steve. We'll go to the rapid fire questions after.
yeah, the sorry, just like you see, I'm very excited for this interview, so I have a lot of questions.
We could take all the time that we want. I'm just feeling bad, like Jason and people watching. We have so many questions for you, Jason. I think we
Yeah.
have 27 live viewers. It keeps on going up. Go, Steve.
You know, for me, the thing that really got to me, it got to me when we were watching the Euros, and I saw a country like Iceland
Hmm.
because of the population, because of their climate. I kind of like that's when my grinta said. That's when I said I need Canada. I need my country to step it up because they're a tenth of our population. Their whole country was almost at the Euros, and they were able not only to qualify in the Euros but continue to make progress. Right? Is there something that's blocking Canada in their progress besides climate, uh, or tactical awareness or physical talent? Is there one major thing that's blocking Canada for to reach that next step to qualify?
You're saying it in a kind of way, probably, Steve. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you see, like an example, the U.S., where they've progressed. Let's say if we're looking back at the 1990 World Cup to now, the women's, for that matter, how they've progressed through time. What is maybe holding back Canada from? There's been progression, no,
The
Steve?
U.S. is a different beast. Their population
I know,
is
Steve.
three
I know.
times ours. I'm talking population to population. So Canada, Iceland, similar populations
How
where
many sports in Canada, Steve?
those can make a leap, but Canada cannot make that leap.
Well, again, everything I'm saying today is always my personal opinion, and I tell this all the time, from coaching to personal opinion. This is my opinion, and uh, I think, I believe that Canada's biggest issue is lack of communication and structure. Because if the guy that's in Newfoundland coaching a certain way is completely different than what's happening in Vancouver, well, you're never going to get on the same path. With our professional league that we have now, which is huge, with the structure that John Herdman and his staff, with Mauro Biella, that's part of that staff now, is trying to put in place. Coaching education is going to be aligned throughout the whole country. We're trying new stuff in the player development pathway from U7 all the way to U12. Agree or not agree, it's a structure, and it's wrong. My opinion is, like, Iceland is so small, so you can all work the same way, right?
Yeah.
It comes down to putting the egos aside, and like I said before, it's what are we all gonna do? Not a what am I gonna do here in my province, in my country. It's a little bit of also the situations, this pandemic we're going through right now. It's, I don't think if every province does their own thing, we're gonna get out of it. I think it has to be like everybody. What
Together.
are we all gonna do it so we can get out of this? And for me, it's a little bit about that. Iceland, they went a certain way from paying their young coaches a lot of money. Here you make a lot of money when you coach pro. Well, then they went a little bit the other way and say, well, let's get the best coaches coaching 9 to 14 years old, and let's really make sure we get it right there. And then through time, well, Iceland is what you got. So when it's bigger doesn't mean it's better.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's about getting everybody around the round table and saying, what do we all agree on, or what can we get at least close to agreeing on, and let's go in that direction till 2026, at least knowing that we have a World Cup.
Makes perfect sense. And, even though Canada's always been like, a hockey country and this and that, but we've seen the growth of soccer. And hopefully, like you're saying, maybe by 2026, we might have a team, and not like in 86 where we got automatically qualified because the World Cup was in Mexico. Jay, quick questions here from Twitter. Gigi Lapata wanted to know, who is your favorite Italian player of all time? Cannavaro. Favorite Milan player of all time?
Gattuso.
Nice.
Sidebar over there.
Why?
Bexy wore the red and the black.
I like Bex because of when he married a Spice Girl.
Mm-hmm.
And crazy hair, and I follow his hair every single time. I just wanted to be him all the time. But if I'm gonna, to be honest, I was telling Steve, or maybe it's the next question of who my favorite Italian team is and all that.
That is the next question, and it's the big question, Jason. Nobody knows. Who are you a fan of as an Italian team?
And I'm not being political right now. I'm going to be
No,
really...
it's okay. You can say whatever you want. We're on judge.
Okay. So since I was a kid, I followed players. I never followed teams. So I followed the Steven Gerrards, the David Beckhams, the Ronaldos, the Brazilian Ronaldo, to the Messis. So I follow players. So I watch games according to the players to see their type of profile. And now as a coach, I follow the coaches and what they're trying to put in place. So I don't have a team. And that's a true story. There's Barcelona that I have a little bit of since my under-20 World Cup against Iniesta. That's always close to me. But in terms of Italian soccer to any other league, I like to follow players and coaches. So I never really follow the team. I went through a little Inter.
It's okay, Jason. It's okay.
You told me to be honest.
You know what? We're gonna put you in the same category as our friend Nima from Sweden, from Sempre Inter. You're like a garden snake. You're a snake, but you're like a garden snake. You're not.
There's a reason.
Dangerous.
There's a reason why I went for Inter.
It's okay. Go ahead. Explain yourself.
Well, my cousin told me I had to go for a team, and the impact was blue, and so I went for Inter. That's the only reason.
You're a liar because your cousin's an Interista too. That's why.
Like I said, my cousin Nick's an Interista, and he's like, "But you gotta go for somebody this year." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll just choose Inter because of the colors and because my godfather is an Inter fan." So I'm sorry, I feel so. But
but David from Philadelphia is like, okay, this interview is over. So you lost. That's why we asked you at the end. We asked you at the end because you said it's over. Everybody's logging off right now.
My first jersey I ever had was a Milan jersey.
Okay, so that's acceptable. Steve, I know Francis had asked a question about the Canadian program, which we answered during the podcast. Do you have any other questions for Jason?
I want to go rapid fire with the coaches.
All right.
Conte or Allegri?
Oh shit! I love it.
So I would say, who wins more? It's all about winning. It's all about
No. Personal preference. We don't want to know about their trophy. Personal preference. Who would you like to work under more, Conte or Allegri?
Conte.
Understandable.
Sacchi or Capello? And this is more in terms of
Sacchi.
Old school. This is gonna be hard for me to
Yeah.
digest because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna know his answer, but I'm gonna be very surprised. Carletto Ancelotti or Marcello Lippi?
Ancelotti, because I met him and I had a conversation. He's a super cool guy.
Very, very jealous. I'm super jealous. I read his book. It was all about food. I love this guy. I would give him just a big hug. Plus, he made a Christmas tree for a formation. He transformed Pirlo. Woo! Oh my God. Very, very, very scary. Love him. Love Lippi, the cigar, beautiful mastermind behind the mic. But
I was a lot younger, back in those days.
Yeah.
I'm an 84. 23. I'm not old.
yeah, it's okay. 2006, he was smoking the cigar. We won the World Cup. That's it.
That's
done. Done.
I have a quick one, Steve.
Wait, one more.
Okay, I'll finish it off.
Pièce de résistance.
Oh.
Pep Guardiola or Jose Mourinho?
Ooh.
Pep, not even close.
Not even close?
No.
Not even close.
Oh, so Guardiola over Mourinho. Mourinho now is gonna somehow listen to this podcast. He's gonna reach out to you. He's gonna tell you off, and you're gonna be over after that. You'll be over. Then that's it.
Half a season that I was following Inter, it was Mourinho, and I didn't. I'm a Pep guy. I'm not.
You don't remember the Mourinho?
The handcuffs.
The handcuffs.
Yeah, and I met Mourinho when he came to Montreal, and I don't know. That's
all right. Hey, if that's your personal opinion. That's fine. We have no problem with Pep Guardiola. Jason, finishing off. Other than the 2006 World Cup, your best memory as a person of Italian descent, your best memory of Le Azzurri? I know we have a lot of bad ones. 2000, 98, 96. But where would you put
94.
94? Yeah. But a best memory out of all that. I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot there, but it could be an instant. It doesn't have to be a game. Any memory that comes out to you as a maybe as a little boy in Forza Azzurri. I stomped him, Steve. I stomped him.
Got me there.
I got him. Because other than 2006, what do you want to go to? You want to go to 2002? We lost to South Korea. You want to go to 2000? We lost to France. 98. So growing up, our generation, there's no other than 2006, other than I remember watching that VHS that my father showed me in 1982. But no, it's all good. Don't worry about it. But Steve, we got to finish off with a better question than that. Anything to finish off with?
National anthem. That's my thing. Every time they sing the national anthem, that's top.
I love it.
Everything.
I love it.
Guys, we would not be a Milan Weekly podcast if I don't ask this. Jason, penny lisci or penny rigati?
Jay, please don't fuck up on this one.
Repeat.
Penne lisce or penne rigate?
Lisce.
No! They're like goldfish.
Jason, you just ruined this whole podcast. I'm sorry.
I'm not here to make fans. I'm here to be honest.
Tell you the truth.
You eat penne lisce before penne rigate.
I eat everything.
Okay,
Steve,
that's good.
Maybe you want to call him on the side and tell him about the history of penne lisce versus penne
They're
rigate.
like goldfish, man. He eats goldfish on a regular basis.
Guys,
I don't eat anything. I eat everything. I don't eat anything. Who knows what's going on? Look, they're laughing.
But you know what? Okay, so let's finish this off. How would the cafeteria, when you were a coach for the Montreal Impact, if there were penne rigate, what else would they be served with?
Well, we had one of the best chefs here in Montreal, Mario. I don't know if you guys know Mario. Guys, I don't know. You're killing me now with these questions.
I love it. But you know what? I'm sorry. Now, Jason, we're gonna get now. You're in that category of penne lisce guy, and Steve is not gonna forgive you. Steve, I'm sorry. I hope you're okay. Are you gonna be okay to do the next podcast?
Probably not.
Guys, thank you so very much to everybody that's watching. 26 people right now. Jason, I really appreciate the time that you take to talk to us. Thank you to Steve for reaching out to you. Steve, any closing words for Jason?
Jason, thank you very much, man. Continue doing what you do.
Yes,
brother.
please.
And please, we want to see you at the highest level.
Guys, I really, really appreciate it. Good luck in everything that you do, and you'll see me at the highest level winning a championship somewhere. Nothing
makes us so more proud than those days of watching, let's say, the Impact, seeing Drogba on the sidelines, or and seeing you on those sidelines and having a respect for you. Not a oh my God, what is he doing now? A respect, because I'm not your best friend. We've known each other, seen each other through our thing, and it's like, wow, like really one of ours made it, and we just hope for you to make it even more from there. So chapeau to you, my friend.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Peace. La grinta.
Have yourself a good night.
Ciao.
Ciao, guys. What a great guest, Steve.
Fantastic.
You always have the greatest. Guys, thank you very much for listening. Hold on. We're going to end this. We're going to start a new one. Milan Club Boston is coming on. Hold on. Just look at your Steve. What did they have to do? The push the notifications.
Yeah, notification puts the bill. I need to get out of this black and blue.
Black and blue. Guys, we'll be back in 5 minutes.